And this is what I call a lazy woman's pierogi pizza. And yes, that is pineapple on my pizza. I love pineapple on pizza, and hey, Hawaiians deserve pierogies too. Hey there, Skeleton Key here, back for week 2 of February reading. All sorts of readathons and challenges and all sorts of fun stuff going on. I have just a little bit left in Dark and Deepest Red. So I have about 65 pages, something like that, left to go. And so far it is so good. I really hope the ending stays with that and does not disappoint me. I have a good feeling about it though. It's just I really enjoy how they're intertwining the stories. I mean, there are two timelines going on. There's more than just Rosella in modern day, and Lala in 16th century Strasbourg, and there is just so much interesting character work and how the characters interact, and I'm just so interested to find out how exactly, because we do know a lot already about how Emil's family is connected to Strasbourg, but I'm really eager to find out more about how that draws in Rosella's family, and there's just so much good stuff here that I'm really looking forward to see how it all just comes together. And then I'm at about the halfway point on The Woman in the Green Dress, and that I don't know, the writing is not as gripping as this, but it's still entertaining, it's still good and still interesting, and it's definitely holding my interest, and I'm again eager to see how everything comes together. So I decided this afternoon, hey, let's get started on reading Made for Love by Alyssa Nutting. It's a book club book. Page 1. A quote from The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is a book I do not like. Let's just put it that way. I was forced to read it in January. Well, I mean forced, but so that was a book club book in January. I hated that book. This does not bode well. Turns out I'm actually kind of liking Made for Love. It's interesting. It's this woman marries, well, she's been married for 10 years to this tech mogul. Sort of, I gather he's supposed to be sort of Elon Musk, Bill Gates, uh, what's his name, Facebook dude, all rolled into one. But he's turned out to be abusive um, and just really super creepy. And so she's left him and gone to stay with her dad, but her widower father has, um, it's like, it's bad timing. I just got my new sex doll, and, we're on our honeymoon. So it's very bizarre. It's very strange. But so far, the story is kind of interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens next. Well, I did not get a whole lot of reading done today. I did get a little bit done on Burnout, and um it's not bad and it's not wrong exactly. It's just I'm not really far enough in to judge, but it's, about breaking the stress cycle, especially from a woman's perspective. I guess I'm apprehensive about how useful this will be for me. The way they're talking about, ideas and ways to use to uh, the science of how our fight or flight responses work, and using that to hack the cycle, I guess. It it just seems to me like it's not going to be that easy for me, just because of how my brain works or doesn't work, as the case may be, or if it's part of being autistic. But it's like, anytime there are these, tips or tricks for how to be more productive, or how to handle this kind of stress or whatever, um, or how not to procrastinate, and um, my brain just kind of laughs. It's like, yeah, right. Like, that's gonna work. Like, I can't just see right through that. So, meatloaf and roasted veggies and mashed potatoes for brunch this morning. Did not get a whole lot of reading done today. Again, um, did get a little bit more read on burnout. Does anyone understand what the monitor thing is? Because it's not making any sense to me. And we talked about it a little bit in book club, and it just did not feel well defined at all. And the explanations were just like, what are you even trying to say? And then there was that decision grid, and I was like, what? No, no, just no. I have a feeling this book is just not meant for people like me. I'm going to keep going, and we'll see where we get with it. So I'm getting started on The Mona Lisa Sisters by George Kramer. And this has some really good reviews so far, so I don't think it's been out very long. But I'm looking forward to reading this, and yeah, the discussion is tomorrow, and I won't have it finished in time. I'm sure I won't have it finished in time. But I do want to get started on it tonight and tomorrow morning. Hey there, it is Sunday. Happy Valentine's Day. I can't remember if I told you or not. I think I'm pretty sure I told you I did finish Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore. We had a really good discussion the other night in book club. I think I liked it more than a lot of people in the book club, and I do. I think their criticisms are valid. Um, and there were a few things that I did notice as I was reading it. It is YA, so some of this I kind of expect from YA, but it's fantasy, and it's a dual timeline, and it goes back and forth between modern day, approximately 2018, I'm guessing, because they keep talking about a 500-year difference, and then the section that is set in 16th century Strasbourg in Alsace. And so you've got the whole fièvre de la danse thing going on there, with basically it starts off women and then is mostly women, but then by the end, I gather there were a lot of men involved, and that was an actual thing that happened. Was these people just dancing, and a lot of them dancing themselves to death. And that is a real thing that happened. And then you've got the main character in that timeline, who is Lala, who is Romani. And of course, she's fearing for her life because she and her aunt are going to be blamed for this outbreak of whatever it is. And whatever it is pretty much lost to time. Nobody knows. It's still a mystery. There is conjecture, but nobody really knows what actually happened. And then on the modern timeline, and I've been saying Rosella, but yeah, it's Rosea, who she's the main character, and she's the only first person POV character in the entire book. And then her relationship with Emil, who's a boy at her school, and they've been friends since childhood, and of course they're teenagers now, and so romantic feelings are developing. And there are stakes in their timeline. Her family, they make shoes, and they're famous for their red shoes. And in the modern timeline, Emil's family is Romani, and her family is, they're not Romani, but they're Rosea is Latina, and there are references to her Day of the Dead observances coming under scrutiny from school officials, and so she and Emil have a connection in that their heritage is not really considered normal, and it is very severely misunderstood. The stakes, however, are not as obviously high in the modern timeline, so there is a little bit of an imbalance going on there. And the stakes for her personally are pretty high, because there's this magical realism kind of thing called the glimmer, that every fall it affects the town and weird things happen. And this time the weird things are happening with her family's red shoes, and specifically her red shoes seal to her feet and make her dance uncontrollably into very dangerous situations. But other than that, there is an imbalance of stakes. There's also a lot of repetition. It's like in the Alsatian timeline, there's one character who was assigned female at birth, but is a boy. And I don't know how many times we are told this during the book, dozens of times, I'm sure. And it's like, yeah, I got that. I'm aware of this. And I know that's a scary thing to 16th century religious folk. So, yeah, that's going to be a problem. And then there are various other things that get repeated a lot. Still, I think it's a fabulous book in every sense of the word. And it's the writing is lush and beautiful. Okay, sure, it's repetitive, but the word choices, there's a certain synesthesia that is just incredibly well done, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book. So yeah, I'm giving it 5 stars. So I have a copy already of When the Moon Was Ours, so now I'm really looking forward to reading. And then I did finish listening to The Woman in the Green Dress yesterday, and that is by Taya Cooper. That's for High Tea Book Club this month. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. I do think the whole, what hooked me in was the cursed opal thing. And I mean, while there is an opal and unfortunate things happen to the people who own the opal, that is really underplayed in the story. And so it's not a fantasy book by any means. That is the only possibly fantastical element to the book. The rest of it is it's a historical, and it's historical fiction, and it's a dual timeline because there's a timeline right after World War One, and it starts in London. And frankly, I think the whole London part of it could have been done away with. It could have started in Australia. The bulk of the action takes place in Australia. So our main character in the 20th century timeline goes to Australia because of this inheritance. I think just having her get off the boat in Australia would have made for better flow. I thought it started off really, really slow. And she goes to Australia, and because she has this inheritance, and her husband was from Australia and killed in the war, and she's never been to Australia. It was a wartime marriage, and but anyway, so she's in Australia, and she doesn't even know she's looking for an opal, cursed or otherwise. And then in the 19th century timeline, which was, I think, 1853, and it's all in Australia. And it follows this Captain Stefan von Richter, and he's just arrived in Australia, and so it follows him and his dealings with this cursed opal. And then there's other hinky stuff going on, but I did really like it, but I felt like the pacing really had some serious issues, and there were times that I was just like, what are we doing? We're just kind of spinning our wheels, and the plot's not going anywhere. And the whole opal thing was completely underplayed. I'm like, I want more cursed opal. Let's just say there's a suspicious death. I don't want to give any spoilers, but there is a suspicious death. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on here. And there's not even really a whole lot of romance going on. Any romance that is in here is all off the page, really. I mean, there's some hints of some stuff maybe gonna happen, but you never really see it. It's kind of slow going, but if you go in prepared for that and not expecting lots of cursed opal action, you'll be fine. I didn't get very far at all into the Mona Lisa sisters this week, so I skipped that book club because I don't want spoilers. It's going to be in another book club later this year. I forget which month, but so I'm going to set that one aside for now, and then I can focus on it for the next time it shows up in a book club. And I did not finish Burnout yet. I'm still reading it. And I do plan to finish it. I think it means well, and I think it probably does have a lot of good advice for a lot of people, specifically women, I think, because it's the burnout it's talking about really is pretty specific to how women in our society are treated, the expectations that we have shoved onto us, and all sorts of fun stuff like that. The first bit about breaking the stress cycle is, I think that's useful. I'm not sure how useful it is for someone like me who doesn't really have a normal stress response, I don't think. I'm gonna keep reading and see how that goes. But there's this whole bit about the monitor with a capital M, and it makes no sense to me. I have no idea what this is about. And then there are these charts that you're supposed to fill out for decision making grids, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not getting this. And we talked about it a little bit in book club, and we're all pretty confused on that. So I don't know if it's just us. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't know how helpful this book is going to be to me, but it is interesting reading, and I do appreciate the helpful intentions that are informing the author's work here. So Burnout is a Sirens book for this year's Sirens Reading Challenge. There's a book on last year's Sirens Reading Challenge called Maybe a Fox, and I just started listening to that today. I got a copy off of Hoopla audiobook, and it's a pretty short book. It's not quite 4 hours long, and I'm about an hour into it, and it's good. I like the writing. It's a good story, I think. I can tell right now. I know I'm going to be sobbing by the end of this thing. I mean, I've already cried some over it, and I'm only an hour into it. And I think I'm not sure if it's YA or middle grades. The protagonist that it follows, Jules, she's 11, I think. So I'm thinking this is probably a middle grades book. This is going to be an intense book, I think. I know I'm stressed and I'm an adult, so yeah. But I think it is going to be good. So, time to wrap up week 2 of February. And, earlier I was mistaken about Maybe a Fox. It's actually on the Sirens Reading Challenge for this year, 2021. That's good to be making some progress on that. So, let's see. I've got several February specific challenges. There's Buzzwordathon that Kayla over at Books and Lala is running, and this month is a color in the title. And so let's see, I read Deep and Darkest Red counts for that, and The Woman in the Green Dress counts for that, so I'm doing pretty good on that one. I have not gotten to any anti-racist books yet for Genreland. I do have one checked out from the library, and I've got another one on hold at the library, so hopefully I'll have it soon. Historathon. The Door. I think I mentioned already that The Door by Magda Sabo counted for at least one square on this year's Historathon, and then Deep and Darkest Red counted for, I think, 2 squares. I'm gonna have to look those up, but and then Woman in the Green Dress, I think, counted for 1. Or did it count for any on this year's? I since I failed so miserably at Historathon last year, I decided, well, let's just kind of try and do it too this year. So, and I don't know how well that's gonna go for either of the bingo boards. But that one, I'm just, let's just see what historical fiction I get read in February this year. And of course, this is Winter's Respite all month long. at the Seasons of Reading blog. So, gosh, I haven't been on Twitter much at all this month, so maybe I should go do some updates on Twitter. So I need to finish reading Death of a Busybody by George Belair's. Hopefully I can get that finished tomorrow. Tonight I want to get started on Midnight at the Barclay Hotel by Flora Bradley. That's a middle grade mystery book, and that's for my Sisters in Crime book club here in Fort Collins. I don't normally read much in the way of middle grade, but this seems to be a middle grade kind of month. I don't know, this one just sounds really intriguing to me, so I think it'll be fun. But I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for week 2, and I'll see you for week 3. And in the meantime, please like and subscribe, and see you around.